Hello, welcome to Leveled Up. I'm PJ and today I'm gonna be reviewing Banished. If you just feel like seeing the bottom line of this review, feel free to skip forward by clicking on the annotation here. Banished is a single-player city builder indie game that has been developed by Shining Rock Software, a company that pretty much consists out of just one developer called Luke Hodorowitz. So this game is about as indie as you can get. It sets itself apart from other city builders by being about a small community that's trying to survive in a very harsh environment. So no building of a metropolis or an empire. You start with a very small group of banished people who have moved together to a place in the wilderness. This wilderness is a procedurally generated map which you create in the beginning of the game by specifying a few modifiers. There's no combat in the game, but it's dangerous enough with your main enemies being famine, cold, fire, and even a very small number of tornadoes and diseases. You start off with all buildings unlocked, so there's no technological research or build trees to go through. This gives the player a lot of possibilities to choose what to build first, although some buildings will be more essential to your community than others. Even if you're not accustomed to city builders, you'll be able to catch on fast because of a very well made tutorial. In the beginning of your game, you're mostly going to be concerned with food and shelter. The game puts a lot of emphasis on resources, and the collection of these are going to be a major part of what you're going to focus on. As such, you'll be building fishing huts, hunting cabins and gatherer huts for your initial food production. And you'll get most of your construction materials out of the untouched wilderness around you. Later on, when those have been exhausted, you'll have to rely on foresters to plant and cut down trees, quarries to mine stone, and mines to collect coal and iron. Farming is also a big part of the game, and you can grow crops on fields, plant orchards with fruits and nuts, and breed livestock. A few of the seeds and initial livestock for these are given you on the easier difficulties, but they need to be traded for on the hardest one. Trade is done by bartering other resources at the trader, since there's no money in the game. And a few heads of cattle or some seeds will require a substantial amount of resources in return. This is why on those harder difficulties, farming is pretty much impossible until later on. Other buildings will increase the happiness, health or productivity of your villagers. Some are pretty essential to maintaining a reasonably sized community. In a way, your most important resource are your people. The population of your town is a great indicator to show how well you're doing, and more villagers means more production of resources, and being able to support larger building projects. It also means that you need a larger food supply to sustain this population, and the player has to be very wary of running out of food, since the game will punish you relentlessly, and you'll soon lose a large chunk of your population to starvation. You increase your population by having separate houses for every family, so they can start having more children. These children will initially be a huge burden on your town, since they consume food but they do not do any work. They are, however, absolutely necessary, since without new children that grow up into working adults, your population will eventually die out of old age. The graphics of the game are kept quite simple and minimalistic, but they do their job of presenting a quaint small village in the middle of nature very well. The transitions between seasons are also very enjoyable to see. There's also a lot of visual feedback of what's going on, such as resources piling up in certain buildings, trees being cut down, buildings being built in stages, and so on. But all adults pretty much look the same, and so do the children. The animations are very simple, and you realize early on that the focus of the game was never on the graphics. The UI is kept very minimal and functional, and most information can be accessed with a few clicks, although some of it is a bit more hidden away. There are large indicators to focus your attention on shortages of essential goods or to indicate the current status of certain buildings. The game works with a grid for placing roads and buildings, which can sometimes be a bit of a bother, since although it might seem that a building could fit, there might be one grid square with a slightly too steep angle or something like that to ruin your day. but once you get used to how the game lets you place buildings, all of this is quickly forgotten since there's enough options to make your town close to what you want. A few more maps to display data and info would have been nice, but in the end, the UI does its job very well. The same can be said about the sound. Most things your villagers do will be accompanied with sounds, and this can create a very lively and busy world. The music is simple and fitting, and even after long hours of playing, it doesn't become obtrusive or repetitive. Sounds for weather depending on the season complete the atmosphere of the game. The game is very addictive, and the rhythm created by the seasons makes it have that special just one more turn feeling that will keep you playing longer than you planned for. There's a large feeling of satisfaction when you are able to lead your small group of villagers to a thriving large town where all are well fed, happy and clothed, especially since the game will try to kill as many of your villagers that it can throughout your struggle. Once you've built all the buildings and have sort of a stable town though, the game loses its appeal quite fast. It's not really an end game to Banished, and since it's a pure sandbox game without any story or objectives apart from some achievements, you eventually lose interest in progressing. I found that I prefer to start a new village all over after I've reached a certain point in the development of my towns. Hopefully this will change soon though, since the developer has announced his plans for a mod kit to be released, and maybe this will ensure that there's more content to keep you busy. There's also some small issues with the game, such as children or certain villagers hoarding supplies in such a way that, while your village produces enough food, people keep starving. Fire is also slightly broken in that the only way I found to decently stop it is marking buildings at the edge of the blaze for destruction. No matter how many wells you have, or if it's even raining, fire will usually keep destroying your buildings until there's nothing in range of it anymore. Things like villagers or animals clipping through buildings or other small imperfections occur regularly, but it never becomes bothersome and you soon look past those small glitches. The bottom line of this review about Banished is that it's a very solid, simple but addictive game. Very harsh and punishing environment make even just surviving a struggle, and gives you a nice feeling of accomplishment if you manage to let your community grow and flourish. After a certain point where you've built every available building and you've survived through the initial struggle, the game gets pretty boring pretty fast. Hopefully the announced mod kit will extend its lifetime, but we'll have to wait and see. The graphics and sound are decent, but since this is an indie game, it's obvious that they were never the main focus point. I could recommend the game to everyone who likes city builder games and strategy fans who like a challenge. However, if you are someone who prefers combat in strategy titles, this might not be your game. Punishing difficulty and the need for patience while expanding also means that most casual gamers will probably not like this title. For me personally though, the game feels like it lacks a bit more depth, and that kinda made me lose interest after my initial few successful villages. But at €20 on Steam, this game is well worth the money for anyone that is up to the challenge. I hope you liked this review, and check out more of the Leveled Up videos here.
Village on an island with a central headquarters, some residences, and of course defensive buildings such as sniper towers, machine guns, flamethrowers, mortars, etc. Just as in Clash of Clans, you have to upgrade your central.
Sometimes it's a bit shorter. Do you how long are the gaming sessions that you do? Do you, like you said, Call of Duty is an 8-hour campaign, do you sit out the entire 8 hours in one sitting, or do you kind of
this if you get some good items? You don't really need to worry about stunning it too often. It can come in handy, but it's all about playstyle. The third skill that you can acquire, which is at level 12, is Zeal.